Hello, you're listening to Everyday Superpower, a place where you can learn about body language, non-verbal communication and everything in between. And I say everything in between purely as we are actually delving into the world of verbal language momentarily. If you like what you hear, click like. If you like what you hear, click subscribe. And if there's anything that you hear which is worth commenting on, please feel free to leave a comment below. And without further ado, let's get on with it. So today we're talking about an individual becoming quiet, saying something quietly, or whispering, or anything along the lines of that, such as a soft voice, a quiet voice, a hushed voice, however you would like to frame it, okay? So we're going to apply this in a real-time situation, so not a baseline behaviour. We're going to talk about a sudden or a prolonged decrease in the volume, the audacity of someone's voice, all right? Potentially making the voice barely audible, or maybe audible only to the selected individuals. Okay, so speaking specifically to an individual and quietening the voice so only they are brought into that space, okay, rather than the grand scheme, the people around them, all right? So a soft voice is in nature quite a timid voice, okay? It's not a bold, powerful voice, and it shows that the individual does not want to be noticed. Okay, but maybe if they're speaking to an individual and aiming towards a particular individual, they might want to bring that individual closer and isolate the message with that person, such as whispering a secret to someone. Okay, it creates intimacy, so it can be used in dating, in seduction, all right? And it can be used, to display personality, especially when it comes to women and the feminine, okay? It can demonstrate gentle, childlike-esque features, right? You will bring the level of intensity down in doing so. And, a soft voice may suppress the energy within a particular engagement. All right, so a hushed voice may create an engagement as to where both are put at ease in a meditative state when initially the energy level was a little bit higher. All right, might bring you down to earth, such as the hypnotist engaging with the client, bringing the energy down and allowing them to breathe and giving them space to think. Okay, space to create imagery within the mind and not to blare them out with this hyper masculine, powerful voice, flooding the senses and giving them no space to think of anything else. If that makes sense, okay? We tend to mirror when speaking to one-to-one, especially if we're in rapport. So if we were to be in a relationship or creating a relationship with an individual, and I'm speaking like this, and then over time, as I just start to think a little more and take my time with my words and start to speak a little more so like this, and ask you a question, what do you think of this? Do you think that's all right? And the other person catches wind of that, especially if it is in a sexual manner, or at least not a sexual manner, but there is some degree of unconscious sexual engagement going on within this conversation, and then they start to respond in this hushed, breathy tone, symbolic of the bedroom. We can start to move things in that direction, you see. Creates peace, creates sensuality, creates a more inwards feel rather so than the external. And that applies to those who may be timid in social engagements. I myself am an introvert, and within crowds and speaking in public places, if I'm not the person who has been chosen to speak, if I'm, public speaking or such, speaking out and boldly and garnering that attention is very hard for me. Okay, so naturally speaking, people will ask, sorry, what? Because they won't be able to hear my voice, because naturally I will be relatively quiet. If I'm in an uncomfortable space, that is, okay? And I'm sure a lot of people who are listening to this will understand. Even if you're the most extroverted person, within particular crowds, you may not be. All right? When you speak quietly to an individual who is aware you're speaking to them, it manipulates that individual to pay close attention to what you're saying. That individual needs to take extra care in listening and paying attention to every single word you have to say. So if I go from speaking like this to speaking like this, and I have such important information to give you, naturally, you're going to be zoned out and hypnotized by them words and almost put in a trance, blocking out all of the external noise because you're so involved and consciously concentrated on the words I'm telling you. You see? So to just give a brief overview of what I've spoken of, we can use this to create less attention, draw less attention to the words we're saying, or us in general, or we can do so to draw individuals in. Okay, it's not very good for, crowds, or where you have to have the audacity to reach a broad spectrum of people, but when it comes to the individual or individuals, it's a very beneficial tool. Okay? When it comes to the timid individual, it implies a person who may lack a desire to control a conversation. Well, when we speak about it in a relationship term and when we apply it to the feminine, so let's say it is an interpersonal dynamic between a man and a woman whom are sexually engaged, or at least, trying to get to that point. The woman may speak in a more hushed tone and a quieter tone than the man in order to give the bold strength of the vocal to the masculine and the quiet, shy, timid vocal of the feminine to themselves, creating the yin and yang dynamic. And if that man wants to reach her in her feminine space and give her something she's also familiar with and become more than a man, to become someone who understands, he may bring his voice down and join her in her space. He may move into her intimate zone, into her femininity in doing so. Okay? But we'll have more on that in later videos. Okay? So hopefully this has given you a little bit of food for thought. A little bit of verbal communication in the non-verbal communication YouTube channel. I'm going to have to rebrand sometime soon. I hope this was of benefit. And if not, leave a comment. Speak soon. Goodbye.